So hello and welcome to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. I'm your host Matthew Hurley. I'm joined tonight by Liam White from the Limerick Voice and Seamus Brady from An Cluiche to discuss this weekend's action and the week's stories in Gaelic games. Obviously, one stands out from the very rest, and we will discuss it in due course. First of all, shout out to our sponsors at Capture Legs. If you want the best gear around, check them out if you haven't already. I suppose, and again, first of all, I have to ask you how you are, lads. First of all, Liam, an eventful week in Gaelic games, and this weekend there seems to be a lot of action, like the Taunton Cubs beginning this weekend, the two provincial finals, which are, well, the Ulster final is going to be a full house. The Leinster final is the most anticipated in a very long time, so a lot of good games to look forward to. And Clare, Tip and Munster is almost a knockout game too.
Yeah, and first of all, Matthew, thanks for having me on again. Really appreciate it. Yeah, a huge amount of games this weekend across all four codes. It's week on week, it's getting harder to keep up with every single game, to be honest with you, or it's getting harder to be able to watch every single game. First of all, I'm only just realizing now that I'm wearing the jersey of a team we're playing on Saturday, so that's probably not my best move.
There's conflict of interest right there.
Well, I have a housemate in Kilkenny, and I actually got mine in Kilkenny, so it's probably not my best move. But yeah, no, I'll be down in Nolan Park Saturday, so I won't get to watch the Ulster final or the Clare Tip game in person. But sure, that's why you have GA Plus. You can go back home, watch it afterwards, and enjoy it afterwards. But yeah, no, a huge amount of games this weekend. Really looking forward to the Leinster final in particular. Obviously, look, with the exclusion of Dublin not being there for the first time in 15 years, it's a huge opportunity for both Meath and Louth to try and claim success in it. So yeah, no, really look forward to diving into it, and looking forward to the show.
Exactly. So, and Seamus, has been an eventful week in Gaelic games, hasn't it? Like when you look at Gaelic game stories that are posted on our pages being discussed on prime time this week, that probably just epitomises the week we're living in at this present moment in time.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like it's built up a hell of a head of steam, and same as what Liam said. Cheers for having me back on, Matthew. Looking forward to this. It's going to be a good episode. We've got plenty to talk about. Who would have thought that we'd be sharing content with Primetime? I mean, that's fairly on the bucket list for 2025 anyway. We've got so much to get into. The two provincial finals, which I think can be decided on a dime. Like, you don't really know who's going to win either of them, to be honest. Like, especially the Ulster final, I think is absolutely razor close to call. Then the Munster hurling game between Clare and Tip is just, I think whoever loses that is gone. So that's just pure knockout stuff with the level of drama, and that is going to be unbelievable. Then we have savage action in the Camogie and the LGFA as well, and that Camogie game, which we'll get into the debate about the Skorts. There's a potential historic day ahead of us. I don't think it's potential, actually. I think it will be historic. It just depends whether it's for the right or wrong reasons.
Exactly. So, and yeah, it is going to be a very interesting weekend of Gaelic games, without a doubt. And we'll be looking forward to getting in to the episode here. But we'll start off with the weekend Gaelic games, as always. And I suppose there is one story to start off with, and we have been mentioned on prime time. It is, of course, the Skorts and Shorts debacle. So, where do we start with this story? Because this has gone toing and froing throughout the whole week. Obviously, this started on Saturday between Dublin and Kilkenny. Dublin and Kilkenny players in the Leinster Camogie semi-final. Just for the record, Kilkenny won the game. Not that I don't know, did anybody know that, but that was obviously low on the pedestal in terms of the significance. The Dublin and Kilkenny players both wore shorts in the warm-up, but the referee and his officials told both the teams, management teams, to get the players to go back into the dressing rooms and change back into the Skorts. Then all hell breaks loose. You look at it, it broke on social media. Every social media outlet then posted it on their own pages, and then it started to get traction. Then this week, obviously, with the Cork and Waterford game, which we'll actually discuss the Camogie first. Cork and Waterford is on this Saturday in the Rag in Thurles on Saturday at 1 p.m. on Clubber. Now, why is this game significant? It's because both Cork and Waterford teams put out a joint statement on the Gaelic Players Association saying that both teams will wear shorts, not just for the warm-up, but for the whole game. Now, that has garnered attention on social media. I think I have actually the statement from Cork and Waterford right here, just for anybody that is not in the know in terms of what's happening. So that is the statement there. We look forward to representing ourselves, our clubs, our counties, our supporters in Saturday's Munster final. We will not be making any further media comments ahead of the game, as our concentration is focused on putting our best possible performance forward. We will be at the Rag in Tipperary with the intention of getting the better of each other on the field of play. Now, these are the two key lines. We will be togged out wearing shorts. That is our choice. Ends. So that is the statement that was put out by both Cork and Waterford teams in preparation for this Munster final. The Camogie Association has announced now on May 22nd there was going to be a special congress for delegates again to vote which would be brought forward. Should the players wear the Skorts, or should they have a choice? Evan Quillen from Senator Evan Quillen, former RT presenter, obviously as well, said if this motion does pass, then the Camogie players can wear shorts as early as May 24th. So this is a lot of significance in this story, without a doubt. I'll go to you first, Liam. I need to catch my breath in explaining all that, but it is just an absolute... It's a joke in many ways that the players aren't allowed to wear what they want to wear. Shorts on the field of play. It's not comfortable. I think Ashley Marr, the Dublin Camogie player, described last Saturday as an all-time low for her, a career low. So, like, it's a big story, obviously. Obviously, I probably know your thoughts on it. It's an absolute disgrace, the way the Camogie players are treated. But it's amazing how this story has snowballed in the last week or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what you said there. It's a joke of a decision that in 2025 women are being told that they can't play a game of camogie unless they wear Skorts. You know, like, that's absolutely ridiculous. They should have the choice. I can't imagine there's really too many of them that want to wear the Skorts, but if they do want to, or if they want to wear shorts, that should be up to them and them only, to be honest with you. Like, I have a sister who played camogie for, well, my two sisters played camogie for years, but one of them played camogie a lot longer, and she tell you herself she hated wearing them. She did not like wearing them at all. They were uncomfortable. And just even for, in general, you could be a photographer taking photos at a match, and then, like, it's, you know yourself, like, you know, you'd have to delete photos afterwards just for privacy and everything like that. Like, they're not nice to look at at all either as well. And yeah, I can't imagine any female player enjoys wearing them when they go out to the pitch. Like, even Michal Martin has said that, you know, it's the bottom line, and like, he hopes that this can be resolved, and it should be resolved, to be honest with you. I think the fact that they've called this Congress meeting means that there surely will be a change to this motion. Like, there surely has to be, otherwise they wouldn't be calling it at all. Could they be using it as a deflection and trying to steer away all the media attention? Possibly. But it's something that should have, like, the fact that they were looking to be changing this motion in a couple of years is a joke. It should have been changed a long time ago. They shouldn't still be in this situation. Like, we should be getting ready to talk about, you know, a potentially very, very good Munster final, be talking about the great players on both teams, looking at how they got here. And again, we should be looking back on last weekend's Dublin Kilkenny game, you know, being proud of both teams and looking back on what was a great game. But instead, we're here talking about this situation again. So yeah, for me, no, it's an absolute joke. Women should be allowed to wear whatever they feel more comfortable wearing. A lot of them will feel more comfortable wearing shorts, and if that's what they want to wear, then they should absolutely have that right to do so. Like, yeah, for me, I can't understand why the referee last weekend told them, you know, it's one or the other. I'm delighted that Waterford joined in with Cork as well, because Cork had said that they were willing to forfeit the Munster final as well, which just shows you that this is a bigger issue than winning any title. So yeah, no, I think great credit to both teams. And yeah, no, it's a great example set by them. They're showing real leadership here in the situation, and I'm just praying to God now that this thing gets changed, and that the next time after this weekend that we watch a camogie game, that the women feel comfortable playing the game, and that we're here talking about the actual game and not what they're wearing.
When you look at the Gaelic Players Association stats, Seamus, 70% of camogie players reported discomfort while wearing shorts. 83% of players surveyed would prefer to wear shorts or believe that players should have an option to choose. when you look at the likes of Ashley Marr on Ireland AM this morning, you look at Emma Byrne on TikTok voicing her opinions, Niamh Rockett and Aisling Thompson both on RT News. It seems like all the Camogie players are getting together on this and they want this changed. Even Anna Geary mentioned a very good point on prime time in her interview as well, saying that when you look at training sessions up and down the country, wherever you go, Wexford, Galway, Cork, Dublin, wherever it is, what do all the Camogie players wear to training? Shorts. Mm-hmm. So why can't they wear shorts in a match on a match day? It's just, it boggles belief. I think Kieran McCarthy mentioned a good point in the Star Sport podcast as well. It's a massive own goal for the Camogie Association in terms of drawing attention on themselves in many ways. Because, like, if this situation was resolved years ago, we wouldn't have the situation right now that this has been discussed in the Dáil. It isn't discussed on prime time. It isn't discussed weekly on Gaelic Games platforms either. Like, I honestly think it's an avoidable issue which could have been dealt with years ago. But we're still talking about 20...
Yeah. And it should have been dealt with years ago. This should never have got to this stage. The Camogie Association have made an absolute mess out of something that should have been really, really straightforward. As you said there, the players wear shorts to training. They wear shorts while they play LGFA. They wear shorts while they play soccer. They wear shorts while they play basketball, rugby, all these other sports. Yet Camogie is the only one that tells them what they have to wear. So it does make them look archaic. It makes the whole thing look ridiculous. And on top of that, the stats that you dropped in there are really, really important. So out of 650 inter-county players that were surveyed, the stats that you said were the 70% experienced discomfort playing in Skorts. 83% want the freedom to choose. But on top of this, I've got two more. 65% are concerned about exposure in media content affecting their mental state. 49% experience anxiety about potential period leaks. So this is genuine, like, serious discomfort. Like, Niamh Rockett was talking on Off the Ball as well in her interview, and she was saying about how she feels anxious when the sports file images come in from the game, and she's hoping that, in her words, the photographer hasn't done her dirty with anything that they took during the game. That's just something that players that wear the shorts never ever have to feel. And yeah, like, since then, like, I made my TikTok about this, I think it was a few days ago anyway, and I was saying that we needed to, as a community, as a Gaelic Games community, we needed to strike while the iron was hot and get this overturned, especially the players needed to get this overturned because the attention was on it. And since then, it's kicked up another gear. It's got to prime time, it's got to RTE, it's got to the Sunday game. Like, you've got Anna Geary posting about it, Ivani Quillen posting about it, Rory Story's made a skit about it. Like, it's literally everywhere. It's in the Dáil. You've got politicians, you've got Sinn Féin wearing shorts to their work to stand in solidarity with the players. The Camogie Association, left, right and centre, are getting bashed. I haven't seen one post from a well-known figure. I haven't seen one post from a well-known media site that has been actually agreeing with the Camogie Association's stance on it when they came out initially saying that they were just part of the rules and that's that. I don't even agree that this needs to be put through Congress at all. I genuinely am like, why can't you not just let the players choose tomorrow? It's not like they're asking to completely change the entire uniform. It's not like they don't want to wear jerseys anymore. They're literally asking to wear shorts, something that's so basic. You should let them wear it tomorrow. You should let Cork and Waterford play in the shorts on Saturday. That Cork and Waterford game is going to be historic one way or another. And the Camogie Association and the match officials on that day, they ultimately have to decide what way they want the day to be remembered historically for. Is it going to be a day that is remembered as a day when the Camogie players finally push through the right for them to wear shorts and feel comfortable and to be able to express themselves 100% while playing and not be afraid and not be in discomfort while playing? Or is it going to be a day that's remembered as when the Camogie Association doubled down once again on this stupid, archaic policy that they have had? And the ball is firmly in their court. I fully stand with the players. Listen to the players. Let them decide.
I've seen on Scorpio there, Liam. The ref for this game is Mike Ryan, I think his name is. Yeah, Mike Ryan from Tipperary. The question I'd put to you is, what do you think, honestly, is going to happen this Saturday? Once Waterford and Cork are not backing down, they're wearing the shorts. They put out that statement now. I don't think they're going to back down right now. Today's Thursday. The game's on Saturday. What are the officials going to do this weekend? It's going to be so unpredictable, isn't it?
Well, I would love to sit here and say that the referee is going to stand with the players and just simply say, listen, this game is being played. They're going to wear the shorts and I'm going to referee the game like always, like I'm supposed to do. It's my job. But given what happened last weekend, you just simply don't know what's going to happen. You don't know whether the referee is going to be under instruction from the Camogie Association to be told, you can't allow this to happen. You have to try and abandon. It actually wouldn't even shock me if the Camogie Association came out and said that we're abandoning the game because, the girls can't wear shorts, or they're not allowed. There's a rule in place. I think if that happens, then, the Camogie Association are already public enemy number one, but they'd really, really they'd never recover from that, I think. I hope the referee and the umpires and the linesmen and everybody involved just sees common sense and just says, listen, they've made their stance. They want to wear shorts. They're going to wear shorts. They're not changing their mind. They're showing up. They're wearing shorts, and that's that. And they just allow the two teams to play the game, and just allow the public as well, who are paying money to go see this game, to just see the game. Because at the end of the day, people are not going to these games to see what the players are wearing. They're going to see the skillful players on hand. They're going to see their team win. They're going to see try and make memories, with their families as well. Because at the end of the day, it's a huge game for both counties, So for me, I do hope the referee and everyone kind of involved in terms of officiating just sees common sense and just says this game is being played, and and it will send out a message to Congress as well to say, listen, you can play these games and you can allow these girls to make their own choice, because at the end of the day, without players, there's no camogie, there's no hurling, there's no ladies' Gaelic football, there's no men's football. And listen, they're the ones that are providing us with the entertainment on hand. Let them be free to do whatever they feel is most comfortable for them in order to fulfill a fixture, in order to play a game. I hope to God the referee sees sense this weekend. I hope to God he doesn't, follow in the same footsteps as last weekend during the Dublin Kilkenny game. I think it would just it would set us up. It would set the sport backwards, in my opinion. And yeah, for me, no, it's like you said, James. It's a historic weekend across Camogie, and I hope common sense prevails here, Spanish, because this is the thing that's been going on way too long, in my opinion, and it should have been resolved years ago.
Sean O'Malley says here, surely the backlash at this point would be too huge to cancel the game. You would imagine people will be sacked, but then again, it is the Camogie Association. So we'll have to see, obviously, Sean. But just as a matter of interest as well, there is one other Camogie game this weekend. There's Antrim against Derry in Dunloy at 2 p.m. this Sunday, live on Ulster Camogie Facebook. And what's so historic in its own right, Seamus, both of these games are going to be streamed. Both games, like Cork and Waterford, is going to be on Clubber. This game is going to be on Ulster Camogie Facebook as well. I guarantee you, because of the interest in this story in the past week or so, there's going to be a lot of people tuning into these streams.
Absolutely, it's, as I said there in my last point, it's going to be a historic day, one or the other. It's going to be a day where either the Camogie players finally take the power away from the association and take it back where it should always be. The power should always be with the players for issues like this. Or it's going to be a day, as I said, where the Camogie Association doubles down again on this ridiculous stance that they've taken on this issue. It just seems like it's about power. It seems like it's about people who are just like, no. Why would we? We don't need to do this. But now the spotlight is on them. The scrutiny is on them. And I do agree with Sean O'Malley's comment in there. It's just, at this point, if you were to abandon the game, the backlash would be absolutely extraordinary. And I do think, I don't trust at all. I do not trust the delay tactic. I do not trust the delay tactic because of what I'd mentioned to you lads before we went on air. The situation that happened with the LGFA players when they joined the GPA and they were supposed to get the expenses covered the same way that the male players did. That was agreed in 2020, and it finally hit 2022. Nothing had been done about it, and it led to the players having to do the sit-down protests. Do you remember that? Because
Yeah.
they kept going, delay. Yeah, we'll get round to it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we'll get round to it. And they just took the heat off themselves. I don't trust the delaying because the heat is on them right now, so they kind of have to do something. They can't come out and go, no, because then the backlash will just be off the scale. So I think they're going to either cave to it and change it to the shorts, or they're going to say, oh, we'll do a Congress in like December or something and try and figure out a way to sidestep this whole storm that is coming now, because it is the perfect storm to get this changed. Everybody's talking about it right now. Everybody has their eyes on this game right now this weekend. Everyone is going to be paying attention to that Cork and Waterford game to see what happens. And if Cork and Waterford get to play the game in the shorts, which obviously is what should happen, then it will be a monumental day for Camogie, a monumental day for the rights of the players, just in general, the rights of the players. Without them, there is no games, there's no association, there's no sport. So they're the ones that should be listened to. And yeah, hopefully they get over the line. I was thinking there, wouldn't it be wonderful if the players brought their own officials? Just picture this. Picture the referee goes, I'm abandoning the game. And then the players can go, how about you get out of here? Because we've got our own ref and our own umpires who are going to officiate this game. And when the game's over, the champions of Munster are going to go up and lift the trophy, and you can sit down in the stand and watch. Like, that would be beautiful. But we'll see what happens.
Should be very interesting to see what happens, not just in the Munster final, but the Ulster final as well. It should be one way or the other, as Seamus mentioned there, a historic weekend for the Camogie as a sport altogether. Sean is saying here, I can see players handing in their helmets if the game isn't played. Yeah, I could to be honest with you, Sean, no doubt about it as well. But yeah, that is it's short and Skorts rant. As we said off air, this could have been discussed maybe our 2-hour episode. But obviously there are games to discuss this weekend. We will start with the Gaelic football this weekend, and we'll start off with the Ulster Senior Football Championship final, and that is Armagh against Donegal. That's live on RT2 and BBC Two Northern Ireland from 5:25 on Saturday. There is another comment in here. Brian O'Riordan is saying in here, the midfield battle will be fascinating to see and will go a long way to deciding both games. Yeah, certainly, Brian. But going to you, Liam, first on this game. Armagh Donegal, this game with the penalties last year. Armagh lost 2 Ulster finals in a row on penalty shootouts. They'll be hoping it won't go to penalties again.
I think that's an understatement, to be honest with you. I don't think Armagh are kind of like the English national football team. They don't like penalty shootouts at all. Now England broke that talk in 2018. Maybe Armagh could break it this year. You never know. But yeah, no, I think for me, well, obviously, other than the people in most of the other counties in Ulster, I think if you're neutral, I think this was the final we all kind of wanted to see, and the one that will be extremely close to call. I think Donegal will be tough to beat. Of course, we all know about Jim McGuinness's record in the Ulster Championship, and of course, like you mentioned, Armagh's recent record with the final heartbreaks. And for me, this is the final they will want to win more than anything. The opportunity for McGeady to finally right their wrongs in this province. Obviously, I know they got over the line last year in the All-Ireland final, but I suppose, yeah, just to win your own provincial title, similarly probably to Clare in the hurling, like people have mentioned already, I feel like that's the one that they really want this year more than anything else. They've made things difficult for themselves against Tyrone. Really, they can't afford to do that again, leaving Donegal with a chance to reduce the gap. If the accuracy of Darrell Wade, we've mentioned a lot recently, McBrearty, Murphy can kick 2-pointers, the O'Donnells, Ushin, Gallen, etc., all being in there as well. The energy that they'll need from McHugh and Patter Morgan at wingbacks, they'll want to avoid it being a tense game until the end, despite holding out their last few high-alert games, I suppose, especially over the likes of Kerry and Galway and Tyrone in the last 12 months. But that doesn't last forever, dear God, please don't let it go to a penalty shootout for the sake of Armagh. Like you said, it would just, I think they'd start, doing this with their eyes. They just wouldn't be able to look at it, to be honest with you. But yeah, Donegal have a chance to put another piece of silverware on the board and to claim back the Ulster title. They've done it before and they can certainly do it again. But I just think, I actually think this is Armagh's time to finally regain the Ulster title. It's in a packed out Clonus, which again I think it would have been another problem for the GEA. Well, for me anyways, it would have been. I mentioned a few weeks ago, I'm not a fan of provincial finals being played in Croke Park when they're not Leinster. I think you need to play them in your own provincial grounds. And for me, there's just something special about an Ulster final being played in Clonus. I just think the atmosphere there, okay, it's only 29,000 people that will be there. If it was in Croke Park, you probably could sell it out. But I just think it'll mean a lot more to both counties to win it in their own province and to win it in a ground like that more than it would be in Croke Park. Especially the fact that in Clonus you could run onto the pitch. You can't do that in Croke Park anymore. So, but yeah, it is a shame it's on Saturday night. Well, for me anyways, because I'll be in Kilkenny for Offaly's game. But I am expecting probably one of the games of the year. And I do love Donegal. I do actually love the way they play football. I love some of the footballers that they do have. And I think Jim McGuinness is one of the best characters we've ever had in Gaelic football too. But I just think Armagh will get the job done. They were, okay, they left it difficult for them at times against Tyrone, but there were 2 occasions when they were 5 points up. They took care of business against Antrim despite a wobbly enough first half. But yeah, I think I said it for a while. I think this will be Armagh's year to claim the title. They've been gunning at it for years. They've had heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. And I just think the way they're going at the moment, the momentum they have behind them, I think they might just see off Donegal. And I actually think they might see them off potentially in extra time as well.
Brian O'Riordan is commenting in here. The Ulster final is sold out, which is obviously great to see, obviously, in regard to that figure. While the Leinster final is expected to be around 50,000, will be the highest attendance since 2017, where 66,000 attended. We'll discuss obviously the Leinster final in just a bit. A comment in here again for Brian. Armagh will have to believe in confidence from winning last year's All-Ireland final. And Sean comes in with a comment in here. You would like to think that Armagh have overcome a mental hurdle that they had for so long. They're used to dealing with big games since they won the final. Leinster Rub. What's that with Leinster Rub? I don't know. Maybe the comments with Pats Plan and Mayo Rugby.
Something like that.
We won't go into that.
This is Gaelic Games podcast, lads. You're not listening to the rugby podcast. So, Seamus. Donegal Armagh, quite an interesting pair in this one. What is interesting from the Donegal point of view, Oisin Gallen has been Donegal's star man, I think, over the last few years, but he hasn't started Donegal's last 3 games or so in the championship, I don't think. So is that kind of an interesting kind of angle to go down? Like if Oisin Gallen doesn't start, is that more of an advantage for Donegal to have a guy like that to come on? But then again, Armagh has Stephen Campbell, so it's going to be very interesting in all aspects in this Ulster final.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And I think with Gallen, look, we all know that if you were to build Donegal's best 15, Gallen will be in it. Like, I don't think any of the 3 of us wouldn't have Oisin Gallen starting for Donegal if we're putting the best 15 forward. But right now, the games, the way that the rules have come in and the way that it's so demanding now physically on the players to get up and down the field at the pace that they do, it isn't a 15-man game now. It's a 20-man game. And you have to make your substitutions at the right time. And Stephen Campbell as well. Like, if you were to pick Armagh's best 15 players, Stephen Campbell would be in it. But Campbell reminds me so much. I was saying this to Aaron yesterday on his pod. Campbell reminds me so much of Kevin McMenamin. Not necessarily in terms of the goal scoring, but in terms of his around the middle type running. Kev Mack came on against Donegal 2011, was one of the biggest examples of when he changed the game, because he came on and he ran at defenders the way that Campbell does. Like, Campbell runs at defenders. He doesn't try to run around them. He punches holes in defences from the 50th minute on. When bodies are getting tired and when gaps are starting to open up, Campbell is the one who punches holes in defences. And he punched a hole in defence in last year's All-Ireland final, which led to Aaron McKay's goal. He was so good coming off the bench last year that the fella was being considered for an all-star in a year where he didn't start any other games. Like, his impact that he came off the bench with every time was second to none. Like, genuinely, I do think that Gallen coming off the bench might be McGuinness trying to match Armagh's output from their bench, trying to have an ace in the pack the same way that Armagh do. But when you're looking at these 2 teams, they're so evenly matched that it's just impossible to call who's going to win it. And if I was looking at it one way, if I was looking at Donegal and saying, okay, Donegal are going to win, I would point to Jim McGuinness's record in Ulster. The fella's only lost 1 game in Ulster since as a manager ever, and that was to Monaghan way back in 2013. His record in Ulster is ridiculous. Comes back in last year, blows Derry out of the water, who were so hotly fancied this time last year, blows them out of the water, goes on to win the Ulster Championship, and wins it in every which way that you could. Goes through a hard battle, blows a team away, like he did it every way in which you could. I would also then point to Donegal's squad depth. I would point to their 2-point kicking ability. Darrow Boyle off the right foot, Paddy McBurty off the left foot. I would point to the pace and attacking ability of the likes of Peadar Mogan, Ryan McHugh. I would point to Michael Murphy's return. I would point to Rian O'Neill's absence. But if I was to then point to Armagh and say that they're going to win, the main thing I would point to is the confidence that they have picked up from what they have achieved in the last 12 months. This time last year when they lost that Ulster final to Donegal, if we remember correctly, the narrative was not, oh, poor Armagh. You know, the narrative was actually turning more to Armagh failed to close out the game again. Armagh bottle it. Armagh always find a way to throw it away and end up losing on penalties. Then they managed to close out the tightest of All Ireland semi-finals against Kerry, and they managed to close off the tightest of All Ireland finals against Galway. The confidence that would have given them, and the belief in their own ability to get over the line in those tight games, you cannot buy that. And Cara O'Kane summed up that Ulster semi-final really, really well on Twitter, the game against Tyrone. He said, Tyrone showed why they're All-Ireland contenders, but Armagh showed why they're All-Ireland champions. Armagh found a way to win in a game that they probably would have found a way to lose 3 years ago. Found a way to get over the line even without the likes of Rian O'Neill. So Armagh coming into this game, they have unfinished business with the Ulster Championship and Donegal don't. And I think that's one of the key things that I would point to in Armagh winning. Funnily enough, lads, I could see I could see their roles completely switching this year. I could see Armagh winning Ulster and Donegal winning the All Ireland. I would not be surprised if that's the way that this finishes up this year. McGeeney is still at the wheel for Armagh, and it's the one medal he does not have with Armagh as manager in terms of championship football. He has an All-Ireland now. He doesn't have an Anglo-Celt medal as Armagh boss. I think he wants to complete the set. I think it's one of the main reasons why he's still here. And I think that kind of crazy obsession with getting an Ulster medal, whereas Donegal already have one. In a game like this where the teams are so evenly matched, you look for millimetres. And I think that could be a millimetre that makes a difference for Armagh. I think Armagh win by a point after extra time.
Both saying Armagh, look, I've probably said Donegal for the last few weeks, but a few reasons to probably doubt myself considering what you're saying, what Sean was saying in the comment there about Donegal not being tested compared to Armagh, getting tested obviously against Tyrone. And when you look at, I looked at a bit of Kieran McGeeney's interview on Off the Ball with Tommy Rooney during the weekend. He wasn't mentioning Conor Turpin's brilliance up front. He was, yeah. He wasn't mentioning any Stephen Campbell's impact off the bench or anything like that. Rafferty's marauding runs. He was actually mentioning Ross McQuillan and his influence on the Armagh team. He's done well, obviously, this year. But McGeeney actually said that Ross McQuillan won us an All-Ireland last season. Like that's probably a quote that I wouldn't have expected off McGeeney. McQuillan was obviously a decent enough player with very good potential, obviously, but I wouldn't have seen him as one of Armagh's main players. And for McGeeney to say that probably just epitomises, I'll go to you on this, Liam, how much of an important player McQuillan is, especially this season and in the last few years.
Yeah, no, McQuillan has been a very underrated player over the last couple of years for Armagh. I thought he was very, very good against Tyrone the last day as well. You know, he was getting some couple of crucial scores. But he got 2-3 points against Tyrone the last day. So, but it just shows that, you know, McGeeney's thinking outside the box. He's not just pointing towards, say, the obvious players that everyone might rave about after a game, whatever. He's seen the bigger picture, and he's like the next day he could mention Jared Burns. He could mention Barry McCambridge. The next day he could mention Paddy Burns. You know, it just shows you that he's thinking about every single player, you know, and that it's a team effort as well. And you need that and that will only do him the world of confidence as well, in that he's got a manager that fully believes in him and fully believes that he can do a job that's required of him, especially when you do look at who he's going to be going up against this weekend and the attack, the kind of, let's be honest, the stacked attack power that Donegal do possess at the moment. So yeah, it was an interesting quote to say the least, but I'm not surprised by it either. McGeeney seems like the type of bloke that is thinking outside the box the whole time and is well regarded by all of his players, but he's well regarding every single player that he has as well. He sees a plan for every single player. He's not like he doesn't just see certain players. Like, I mean, obviously everyone knows about Reid O'Neill over the last couple of years, or Rory Grugan, or even O'Neill at corner forward as well. But he thinks about every single player in that panel as well, which is crucial in order to win games as well. So yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me at all. Head by the weekend, it could be Conor Turbiddy talks about as well. So yeah, no, it's brilliant to hear that from a manager. I mean, it's better than him coming out saying that this player lost at the All Ireland or anything like that. But which obviously you'd hope he'd never do for the player's sake. But yeah, no, it was actually a very good interview as well. I actually really enjoyed listening to it.
Definitely so, no doubt about it. So I've backed against Armagh all year simply because you do know about the Ulster curse, don't you, lads? Like every year, aside from Ulster wins the All Ireland, the year after they implode. Tyrone, worst All Ireland defensive in history. Donegal got spanked by 4 goals against Mayo. Tyrone went out in the qualifiers to Laois. They got schooled by Cork in 2009. It's kind of endless. So you were kind of expecting the hoodoo to happen to Armagh. But if anything, Armagh have actually got better than last year, which is the weird thing. I'd actually back Armagh, yeah. I'd back Armagh to win it.
It's kind of like, I kind of reference it to like Galway when they won the All Ireland in 2017. I actually thought they were better in 2018 and they still didn't win the All Ireland. That could be Armagh this year. Like Seamus said, it could be a role reversal of Armagh win the province this year and Donegal wins the All Ireland. But Armagh could be looking back in 12 months' time saying, how did we win it in 24, but we didn't win it in 25? That's the closest thing I can kind of regard to it.
Yeah. No, that's a great comment in by Sean as well. Like, they've had that heartache. They've had the heartbreak. And the confidence that they've got from finally getting over the line, because you would see it in them. Like, they would be jittery going down the home stretch, and they never, ever, ever did anything easy. Just that confidence that they got, because they got over the line when it mattered the most. But having an Ulster medal has just the same level of respect in the province as having an All Ireland medal does. And that clip with McGeeney, I don't know if you said this, Matthew, but I found it really interesting. This was just on the Ross McQuillan piece. Was that McGeeney was saying that McQuillan had won them on All Ireland because Rian O'Neill had thrown a bad hand pass and McQuillan had dove on it, like, and risked being hurt in order to retain possession for Armagh and not let Galway have another crack at getting an equaliser. And that was why McGeeney said, like, Ross McQuillan won us an All Ireland, because he saw that millimetre, that centimetre. And that's why McGeeney was one of the greatest centre half backs to ever play the game, but also a fantastic manager, not just at Armagh, but also at Kildare. Like, Kildare haven't got back to where they were since McGeeney's left. Like, the drills that he would put them through, how well drilled they'd be, how much Armagh have come on in leaps and bounds since McGeeney took over. Like, lads, let's not forget, McGeeney took over a Division 3 side that were nowhere near the All-Ireland stakes. Like, how far they've come since McGeeney's been in charge, when they're a side that a lot of people would have expected to be there. It is basically the equivalent of, Brian Flanagan in 10 years' time having Kildare with an All-Ireland medal in the back pocket and heading for a Leinster championship. Like, it's yeah, no. Yeah. Hopefully by then Dublin have regained control over Leinster. But like, it's a massive, massive job that he's done. And I do feel like completing the set is of paramount importance to him. And I feel like they're going to leave no stone unturned in this. As for the All Ireland, I've made my bones about that. I think there's another trend as well that I've definitely said to you on podcasts before, but just hear me out. The fact that when a team wins an All Ireland for the first time after what would be considered a famine, they never go back to back. They just, it doesn't happen. Like, you look over history, Kerry finally won it in 1997, having not won one in the early 90s, and then they didn't get close in 98. You've got Armagh didn't win it in 03, they got very close. Tyrone won it in 03, as you said, Matthew, were nowhere close in 2004. Donegal finally won it in 2012, fell off in 2013. Dublin finally won it in 2011. We're all over the place in 2012. In hurling, Limerick, probably the greatest hurling team of all time, won it in 2018. Didn't even make it to the final in 2019. There's plenty of examples of teams finally getting to the promised land. Dublin in the LGFA 2010 finally got over the line. and then nowhere near in 2011. There's so many examples of when a team finally gets there, it's very hard to go back to back. And I do feel like for Armagh, that motivation that is carrying them towards the potential Ulster title won't hit the same for retaining an All Ireland. And I do feel like they will get over the line in this Ulster final, but not the All Ireland.
Interesting. All right, we're all backing Armagh to win it. Pretty weird, but I don't know. Will for the next game, will everybody have the same kind of sentiment? It is the Meath against Louth, the Leinster Senior Football Championship final on Sunday at 4:15, live on RT2. I think there's two elements to this. Number one, Seamus, how do you feel right now? Dublin aren't there this year. And number two, Joe Sheridan. Joe Sheridan's a great guy. Obviously, he's on the JMAC podcast. I've been on loads of podcasts with him. He seems like a sound guy, all right. And Joe, if you're watching this, we'll be looking out for you. We'll be looking out for you on Sunday. But first of all, Seamus, because you're a Leinster man and obviously Dublin aren't there. I know Dublin aren't there, but it is the most anticipated Leinster final in 15 years, which was coincidentally between these two counties.
Yeah, and honestly, like, a lot of people forget that the excitement in the Leinster Championship died out over the last 5 years, 7 years, kind of around that time period. Because even in the early stages where Dublin were getting the wheels in motion again for winning the Leinster Championship, let's not forget, we should have lost to Kildare in 2011. We were very, very lucky to get out of that game. We got given a bullshit free at the end that Bernard Brogan tapped over. Still don't know what it was for to this day. And then we should have lost that Leinster final to Wexford. Anthony Masterson came out, punched it off Graham Malloy. Dublin got a very soft goal, and that turned the tide of the game. 2 minutes later, James McCarthy scores Dublin's second goal, and that was the game wrapped up. We nearly lost to Meath in 2012, and from 2013 on, that was it. Jim Gavin came in, Dublin were off to the races, and the Leinster Championship was not close for the next 10 years. But you're right. Since then, the Leinster Championship hasn't captured the imagination because of Dublin's dominance. Now, we have a Leinster final that means so much to both teams. Remember what we were saying about the All-Ireland final last year? We knew it was going to be massive because it felt different to other All-Ireland finals. It didn't feel like Dublin-Kerry in 2023, where neither side was going to bridge a huge gap. It was Armagh-Galway. If Armagh won it, it was the first All-Ireland since 2002. If Galway won it, it was the first All-Ireland since 2001. Either way, a huge gap was going to be bridged. Same thing here. If Meath win it, it's their first Leinster title since 2010. If Louth win it, it's their first Leinster title since 1957. So no player going into this Leinster final has a Leinster medal. The stakes are massive, and that's why in this Leinster final we're going to see passion and atmosphere and just an absolute blinding commitment, the likes of which we haven't seen in the Leinster final since, at the very least, 2011, 2010. So yeah, it's going to be a barn burner. Cannot wait for it. And on top of that, both sides are so evenly matched. Yes, Meath have beaten Dublin. That doesn't matter a jot now. That does not matter at all. We've so many cases of teams winning a supposedly harder semi-final and not finishing the job in the final. Like last year, Cork beat Limerick in the All-Ireland hurling semi-final and Clare were waiting for them in the final. 2010, Sligo beat Galway and Mayo on their way to the Connacht football final. Roscommon were waiting for them in the final, having gone through the easier side of the draw, beat them in the final. There's so many examples of this in the past. Meath have to take heed of them. They're playing against a Louth side that they lost to in the league, that they lost to in the championship last season, a Louth team that does not fear them in the slightest. There is still a massive, massive task to be overcome. Louth have got their generals back. They've got Sam O'Roy back. They've got Craig Lennon back. The impact that they made against Kildare was astronomical. So this game, especially considering it's against Meath, it's presented itself as a golden opportunity for Louth to right the wrongs of 2010. Not just for this year, but for the journey that they've been on. They started in Division 4. Mickey Hart came in. Back-to-back promotions. Ger Brennan comes in. First inter-county manager's job. And not only does he take the wheel with confidence, but he smashes it, brings them back to a Leinster final, comes closer to Dublin than anybody had come for a decade up until that point. And really, really justifies where Louth are at. How good would it be for the wee county to culminate all that journey in a Leinster Championship? Because you look at the factory line they've got behind. They beat Meath in the Leinster under-20 football final there last week. There's a factory line of very talented footballers coming. This Louth team is here to stay. And a victory in this Leinster final could propel them well beyond what anybody would have thought they were capable of 10 years ago.
And added to that as well, recently they actually reached the Leinster minor final as well. The first time they've ever reached 3 finals in their history in the provincial championship in minor, under-20 and senior, which is brilliant. And moving on from the minor, coincidentally,
Dublin, Matthew. They battered Dublin in that semi-final. Like, I think it was, what was it, 217 to 1-8 or something?
218 to 1-7, yeah.
Unbelievable, like.
Yeah, unreal. And coincidentally, the side that Louth are playing in the minor final is Offaly. And an Offaly man's going to talk about it now. Liam, how do you see this senior final going?
Yeah, it's a pity we're playing Louth, so I like Louth. But I'm really looking forward to this final. And again, it's no disrespect to you, Seamus, but you can probably understand from a neutral's perspective in Leinster that it's nice to see someone else in the final for once other than Dublin.
Go on, say it to my face.
Yeah, it's better. I know. Look, you deserved it over the last 14 years. We're not going to begrudge you that.
I'm happy we're not there, to be honest, for the competition. But
yeah,
I do want to beat Meath next year, and I don't want to see Meath win it this year. But.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this one, and the fact that it is the replay of 2010. I hope to God we don't get the same ending as we got in 2010, because otherwise, I mean, it's already going to be a weekend of controversy. Could you imagine if that adds to the fuel to the fire as well? Like, it'll be a historic weekend in GEA forevermore anyway. Yeah, the big thing as well is to see that there's 50, 60,000 plus getting to the final as well, and hoping to get a chance to see a good game of football. My housemate is from Louth, and unfortunately she has an exam the next day, and I've said to her, exams will come around, you got to go to the Leinster final instead. But in fairness, but like that's just what it means to the people in Louth. You can see what it means to the people in Meath as well. And like Seamus kind of said there, beating Dublin's great, but you don't get the prize if you don't beat Louth, and that's the ultimate goal at the end of the day. Like, knocking out Dublin is great, but if you knock them out but you don't get the Leinster Championship, then nobody really is going to remember it long term. They're going to remember who actually won it. And yeah, they were outstanding against Dublin. Like, their energy, their shooting was exceptional. And like, the thing that impressed me the most was their work rate more than anything. Like, I feel like that's probably been an issue for some Meath teams over the past couple of years. Like, I've noticed even in person when they played us in 2023 in Tullamore, we just worked so much harder than them. It was very unrecognizable Meath team, to be honest with you, with that Colin O'Rourke inherited there a couple of years ago. Whereas here, throughout the 70 minutes, especially in the first 20 minutes even, they were exceptional over Dublin. They were turning over the ball, and they fought from the front. Look, as we expected, Dublin came out in the second half. They made a bit of a comeback. They made it tense towards the end, but Meath had done enough in the first half. And a big decider in that was Owen Frame. He was unbelievable in that first half. So, and if Louth are to stop him, then they could go a long way to winning this. Like, he was even shooting from ridiculous angles, like angles that you might see in hurling, but to see in football, you're like, it's even more impressive in a way, to be honest with you. But similarly, Sam Mulroy, the last day was the big difference between Louth and Kildare. And if Louth are to win a first Leinster title since 1957, then they're going to need Sam Mulroy to be at his absolute best. They're going to need Craig Lennon to be at his absolute best, players like this. So, yeah, they're going to have to bring levels that they've never, ever brought before, both teams, And for me, I think you're going to like me, Seamus. I think it's going to be Louth that's going to win it. I just think the history behind 2010, I think they're building something special. They've been the best side in Leinster, apart from Dublin, over the last number of years. Like, I remember seeing them in person in 2023 when they bet us an extra time in Croke Park. And I was very, very impressed with them, to be honest with you. I thought this is the closest we're going to get to a side knocking Dublin out in the Leinster Championship over the next number of years. And they performed well last year. Like, they were right up like Dublin's coattails up until obviously Dublin pulled away in the second half. But you could even see it from the Dublin players at the end of the game last year. They were exhausted at the end of that game because they knew they had to work for it. Probably the hardest they've had to work for a Leinster final win in donkey's years, So, but yeah, like you said as well, there's such momentum behind Louth at the moment. I hope they don't win the minor final, just for obvious reasons. But it's great to see them winning the under-20 championship. It's great to see them being here in the Leinster final for the third year in a row. They started off poorly against Kildare. They're going to have to not do that against me, because you saw how strong Meath started against Dublin. But I just think it's their time. I think it's their time to finally get over the line. And look, I would be equally happy for Meath as well. I've no grudges against them. My family members for Meath as well, so I've no grudges against Meath at all. But I just think for Louth, I just think this will mean an extra bit more. I think they'll bring an extra crowd with them as well that will want to get over the line, that will want to see a first Leinster title, for a couple of generations. Let's be honest about it, So I think we're in for a cracking game as well. I think both teams are going to go hammer and tongs at it. I don't think there's going to be any holding back in the slightest, especially with the new rules as well. It's bringing out the best in football this year. And I think we're going to see that again this weekend, and especially with 50, 60,000 people at Croke Park in comparison to some of the attendances that we've seen at Leinster finals. Like, well, last year's 23,000 people or 24,000 people at it. And it felt a small bit flat to a degree. I don't think we're going to see that this year. I think it's going to be a terrific occasion. Whoever wins it, it's going to be special for them. But if I was to be betting my money on one of them to win it, I'm going to be going with the Wee County.
Not to mention the elephant in the room in discussing this game, Seamus. But in all seriousness, look, I think, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think Andy McDonald across the both sides, Louth and Meath, is the only player that actually played that day in 2010. Yeah. So, will history be a valve this Sunday?
Hope so. Like, I genuinely do because that was daylight robbery to a level that I've never seen before and never seen since. I've never seen anything like that. That was just baffling. Like, it was literally just, he threw it into the net and got away with it. Like, it's just absolute daylight robbery. But lads, imagine this. Imagine, right? Let's say that the floodlights need to be used for this game. I want you to picture the whole stadium goes black and you just hear Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, 5 minutes left. Joe Sheridan's coming in. Or like Martin Sludden comes out to like the Vince McMahon music or something.
Oh, they're Jesus Christ.
Here comes the money.
No.
Did you see Matthew, did you see what was
this actually, if this happens?
God knows. Did you see, Matthew, the AI image? I think it was John threw it in, and it was like Joe and Martin Sludden having a shot together, but it was like an AI generated image. But it was the two of them doing a shot together after the Leinster final. It's just, I'm like, man, AI is getting too good.
AI is getting scary. That's what it's getting.
Yeah. Because the Meath jersey was actually fairly accurate. It was just the crest and the sponsor that was wrong. But like the color scheme was bang on, and the design was fairly bang on. I was like, give it 5 years now. Well, no, what's what.
I don't know if Sheridan would be quite Vince McMahon hate level, but it could. But for Louth people, it probably would be. It's the situation was to happen again, to be honest.
Well, I remember that because I remember Dublin played Louth in the 2010 round 4 qualifier, and we won. And I remember the Louth team went for a little bit of a lap of honour that day. I remember they went around Croke Park and they were getting a round of applause from the Dublin fans as well as the Louth fans for the journey that they had, for the year that they'd had. And everybody stood with them. It was crazy that Meath just got away with it. Like, that there was no ramifications for what they did. It was very similar to Kilmacud Crokes versus Glen.
Can we leave all Arsenal talk out of this podcast, please?
Yeah. Just even the Arsenal Irish fans were conflicted when he did that.
We won't get started on Declan Rice anyway.
But yeah, like I just remember that, and I remember that clear as day. And it was very similar to the Glen Kilmacud Croke situation, where Kilmacud kind of just got away with it. Like, they put the extra player on the pitch and just got to keep the cup. Like, there was no consequences for what they did. And it does, like, Louth, they're going to have to keep their A game on. Do I think Meath should offer the replay to Louth? Yes. To this day, I think that Meath should offer the replay to Louth because Pat Spillane said it really, really well on the. Did you lads watch the Chase and Sam documentary about the
Yeah.
2010 season? Do you remember what Pat Spillane said? The reality is, Meath were favourites for that Leinster final, and they probably would have got over the line if they had offered them the replay. If the replay had been played, Meath would have been favourites to win that replay. Now, would they guaranteed have won it? Definitely not. Louth definitely could have beat them. We saw it in the first game when they did beat them. But Meath probably would have been favourites in the replay. And then if they'd gotten over that line, they would have gained a lot of ground back. But because they just didn't even offer them the replay, they just became the biggest villains in the country. And when Kildare beat them quite handily in the quarterfinal, everybody kind of wished them good riddance out the door. So they definitely that has become one of the most infamous results ever. And when Meath won and you realise that Louth had beaten Kildare, you were like, of course. Like, of course. Of course it's Louth waiting for them in the final. Of course it's going to be Meath and Louth again. And it's an opportunity for Louth to right the wrongs of 2010. And for Andy MacDonald himself, what a moment for him it would be 15 years on if he can get his hands on. He's 35 now. He would have been 20 at least when that Leinster final was played. Like, that's a lifetime apart, but what a journey. And if it culminates in a Leinster medal, it's unbelievable.
That's the thing, yeah. And even looking back at the analysis of that day, I remember Pat Spillane and Tony Davis. I was watching TV, and Pat Spillane was saying it was an utter disgrace and things like that. And then on the Sunday Game Highlights programme, funny enough, Kevin McStay was saying it was a disgrace and things like that. But Colm O'Rourke joked. Colm O'Rourke was on the panel that night with Des Cahill, and he joked that if Meath were on the other side of the shoe, what would have been said?
It's probably not that much, like, probably a little bit less severe because Meath were the favourites. Like, Meath were the favourites, and anytime the favourites win due to a like ridiculous decision like that, people hate it. Like, think it like, do you know, like, I'll give you a great example. Do you remember when Man City won the league 2011, 2012? Like, with
Happy C
Aguero,
said.
like, no, but like,
Is that what
no,
you're
but like,
thinking?
no, with Aguero hitting the winner for City against QPR, against and snatched the league away from United. City were on the
Yeah,
come up then. They weren't quite there yet, and when they got over the line,
I got
if
you.
City did that now to beat someone, everybody would be snapping. Nobody would think of it as
Yeah,
like this astonishing moment. That's not you're not breaking through the ceiling. Like, everybody would be like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, City have won another league. Like, nobody would be celebrating it. So genuinely now, Meath were the favourites that day, which means that people weren't really happy when they got over the line in a crazy way like that. If Louth, the massive underdogs, had got over the line, I think people would have been, yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know, maybe let. But realistically, it still would have drawn outcries from the Meath fans, rightfully so, and most of the people that were kind of, common sense would have prevailed, and most people would have said, yeah, the goal should have been given. But with this game, because we haven't even really talked that much about the game, lads. We kind of talked
Yeah,
about the
that's the
stuff
thing, yeah.
around it. For me, the key thing in this game, the absolute key thing in this game, is the midfield battle. If you look at the Dublin game against Meath, what Meath did so well was Meath dominated around the middle in the first half. They boxed Dublin in, dominated under Stephen Cluxton's kickouts, and they were able to get good quality ball then into the likes of Owen Frayne, especially, and into Matthew Costello, who was also really good. In this game, Louth do have a stronger midfield pairing than Dublin would have had against Meath the last day out. Louth do have a stronger midfield pairing. Tommy Dernan and Conor Grimes and Andy MacDonald in there around the midfield are superb. Meath have Conor Gray in there, they've Brian Menton in there. Matthew Costello sometimes comes out. Like, it's going to be a real battle. And it's just a question of, can Meath win it and therefore get more ball into the likes of Owen Frayne, or can Louth win it and get more ball into the likes of Sam O'Roy? Whoever can do that has a massive leg up in terms of winning this Leinster final. Meath, their style does suit to Croke Park quite well. I think that's one thing that they have a massive advantage in. But for Louth, the one massive ace in the pack that they have is any time that Meath foul them, and if it's anywhere near the 40-metre arc, Sam O'Roy will punish them more often than not. Meath's discipline in this game is going to have to be perfect. They cannot give away frees outside the 40-metre arc because Mulroy is one of the best kickers in the business.
And we kind of,
So, yeah, go
I was
on.
only going to say, probably a big example is that they can't allow space or time for a Sam Mulroy or anyone else really on the Louth team to kick scores, because even in their winning against us, like even watching the highlights back, so I wasn't able to go to the game, but just seeing the amount of time, the amount of times that Keith O'Neill had time and space to kick a 2-pointer, or when Kyle Higgins kicked a 2-pointer, the time and space they were allowed, like there was no pressure being put under them, in order to block them down or to force them. Trying kind of like what Kerry did to Mayo in the league final. There was no pressure trying to force them to hand pass it back out and trying to work another score. You know, so if they can press up on Louth and force them into making different sort of decisions and not being allowing them to kick the ball over the bar at their free will, then they could go a long way as well.
Interesting, actually. Liam is the only person to actually put his nail on the line and say a prediction. And he said Louth will win the Leinster final. So myself and Seamus, we're under pressure now. Seamus, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I have to play nice. This is your pod. I'm not the host. I can get booted out of this at any time. Yeah. Again, it's really, really difficult to call. And I will admit, there definitely is a slight bit of my heart overruling my head coming into this. I want to see Louth do it. I really, really do. And it's not entirely a Dublin person picking against Meath. Surprise, surprise. But I really, really do want to see Louth do it. Not just for the robbery of 2010, but for the journey that they've been on as a group. From when Mickey had picked them up in Division 4 and that long, long journey that they've had, the back-to-back defeats in the Leinster final against Dublin, and last year's heartbreak when they pushed Dublin so hard right up until the bitter end. They deserve silverware for the journey that they've been on. They deserve a Leinster Championship for the journey that they've been on. For Meath haven't been on the same type of journey that Louth have been on. Meath have been a team that everybody's been looking at being like, what is going on? Why can't they get to the level that we know that they're all capable of? We've seen the under-20 success. We've seen the minor success. We've seen the players coming through. And under O'Rourke especially, it made no sense as to why it wasn't clicking, why they were so flat against Dublin, why they had no belief against Dublin. Robbie Brennan came in, we all said it. We said, there's a manager who demands seriously high standards. There's a manager who's a winner. There's a manager who's won the All-Ireland Club Championship with Crokes. This is a guy who's not going to let Meath roll over for Dublin the same way they have done in previous years. I expected them to put it up to Dublin this year, but I didn't expect them to beat Dublin. It's fallen into place and it's clicked really fast. And all of a sudden, they're here about one game away from winning a Leinster Championship. And I think it all comes down to that midfield battle. I think Meath's style will probably suit Croke Park a little bit better in terms of their flair. But there's two things that are going to make me give it for Louth. Number one, they're more consistent. I think we know what we're going to get from them. They're very capable of beating Dublin and then being as flat as they were against Offaly in that first half. And I really do believe, as good as Offaly are and have been, I think Offaly and Louth are two different types of teams. Liam, I wonder if you'd agree with this. I feel like Offaly are kind of like Meath in that they can really hit momentum, but then they can be flat for stages. I feel like Louth remind me a lot of like a 2011 Donegal, like Jim McGuinness's first year. That like they do the basics well. Their defense is really solid. They've a big, powerful midfielder in Tommy Dernan, who reminds me actually a lot of Neil Gallagher. Then up front, they've got their main man in Sam Mulroy, just like Donegal had Michael Murphy, and the whole attack runs around him. They focus on the basics and they do the basics well. And I think you are more likely to get a solid performance out of Louth, no matter what the occasion is. Whereas Meath will have to manage the occasion. And Meath are very capable of going out there and winning by 5, 6, 7 points, or they're very capable of losing. And I think if I'm going 10 times out of 10, maybe I'm saying that Meath win it 4 times, and I'm going to say Louth when it's 6. I think Louth take it by a point.
I'm going to go differently. I'm going to say Meath.
Of course, yeah.
You know, look, what you said about Meath, the style of play, them suited Croke Park. They're going for Ian's a long kicker. You know, Matthew Costello, if he plays as a long kicker. I think the roar of the crowd, and then people talk about the boos for Martin Studden and the boos for Joe Sheridan if they're showing up at the big screen. Imagine the plot twist if Jordan Morris is back in the panel for Meath. I don't know, will he? But we'll have to see. But there are some murmurings this week that he might be back in the panel, so we'll have to see. But I do think the journey that Robbie Brennan has got this Meath team on, I do think they're a better team. Genuinely, it's funny because Louth have the better head-to-head record, but I do think Meath have a better group of players and a better team.
We have to factor in as well, Matthew. We have to factor in that Corey and McMahon left the Meath backroom team after that Meath and Louth game, and I think looking back, that must have been bothering them that day because they were so flat in that first half.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, and I think like it's a clean slate now for this Meath team. It's another reason to say I think Meath will get over the line and win their first Leinster in 15 years. And unfortunately for Louth, it's another heartbreak. I do want, genuinely from a Cork point of view, I actually want Louth to win this game because I'd rather play Meath away than Louth. So, look, we'll see what happens, but I'm going to go for Meath. The two lads are going to go for Louth, but we'll see what happens. Obviously,
just
1 hour and
imagine,
6...
Man, imagine, lads, what it would mean for a Louth fan who was alive in 1957 to see them do it again. Like, that's the magic we could be about to see this weekend.
Unreal.
Definitely so. We're 1 hour and nearly 7 minutes into the books now. So, turbocharge, let's go. So the Tailteann Cup is next on the agenda. So instead of going game by game, we're not going to do that. We're not going to put you through torture, that seriously. We are going to just go through the games, and I'm just going to ask Liam his general opinions on the Tailteann Cup. So, in Group 1, first of all, on Saturday, if Kildare against Leitrim in St. Conleth's Park in Newbridge at 5 p.m, and on Sunday in the same group, it's Sligo against Tipperary in Tubbercurry at 1:30 p.m, not in Markbridge Park. I don't know why it's on Tubbercurry, but there you go. Group 2, on Saturday, if Offaly against Wicklow and Glennis O'Connor Park, I'm sure Liam will have a lot of opinions on that, and Laois against Waterford in O'Moore Park in Port Laois at 3 p.m. on Saturday as well. Then on Saturday in Group 3 of Limerick against London and Newcastle West at 1 p.m. and Westmeath against Antrim in TG Cusack Park in Mullingar. That is also live on GA Plus on Sunday, that game. And then in Group 4 of the Tailteann Cup, we have games in that Wexford against Longford in Chadwick's Wexford Park at 6:30 p.m. on Saturday evening. And the final game in the Tailteann Cup this weekend is between Fermanagh and Carlow in Brewster Park in Enniskillen at 2 p.m. on Sunday. 8 games there, Liam. What's your highlights?
Well, I'll be at the Offaly Wicklow game, please God. Offaly Wicklow, and then driving down to Kilkenny. Jeez, they don't do us any favours, do they? Yeah, I suppose from the Tailteann Cup point of view, from an Offaly perspective, I do hope that this year is a lot better than what last year was and what the year before was. And even the year before, we got to a semi-final, but we really didn't have a difficult road, really, in hindsight, to get there. And the performance in Croke Park that day against Westmeath, there was a couple of individuals that came out of the game with their heads held high, but overall, it was a very, very poor showing. And sorry, I went now, to be honest. But yeah, no, for me, I think from Group 1, I think you can simply say Kildare would beat Leitrim. I don't think we need to analyse that too much. I know Leitrim put up a good performance against Mayo, but I just think Kildare are levels above Leitrim at the moment. Sligo, I'd expect them to have too much for Tipperary. Like I said, I don't know why that game's not in Market's Park. It's very strange, but I think Kildare and Sligo will be the top two teams in that division. Westmeath, I think they're a team that should be playing in the Sam Maguire, not the Tailteann Cup, to be honest, which I think they're good enough to play in the Sam Maguire. And I don't think Antrim will pose them any problems this weekend. Wexford Longford will be an interesting sort of a game. I think Wexford have put up real good performances this year. Flat enough against Laois in the first round of Leinster, but I should expect them to get over the line in that one. For Fermanagh Carlow, you mentioned Meath's problems with backroom team leaving. Carlow's is even worse, and you saw that when they culminated in that meeting in the Leinster Championship. I think Fermanagh are a good side. They should have beaten down in the end, really, in the in the Ulster Championship. So I expect Fermanagh to win that comfortably enough, in my opinion. Again, Offaly and Laois, in my opinion, should be the two teams that go through in Group 2. I think Laois will have way too much for Waterford this weekend. I mean, when you have Mark Barry in your side, when you have Benny Carroll in your side, you're going to be a tough opposition for most bottom tier Division 4 teams. And for us, like I said, I'm hoping that we get a better display than we did last year. Obviously, everyone mentions the London game, but we did also lose poorly to Limerick away, and then we went up. I think we went up to Cavan to play down, and we actually performed okay, but still not good enough. We lost 3 games out of 3. It was a poor year for us. I'm hoping that this time around we perform much better than that, and I hope we get off to a good start on Saturday. I expect us to. Oisin McConville's done a great job with Wicklow, and listen, they put up a great performance against Dublin. They keep some real good 2-pointers that day as well, down in Auckland. But I should expect us to get the job done over Wicklow this weekend. If we're going to have any chance of winning the Taoiseach Cup this year, which I do want to see us, or at least seeing us get into a final minimum, then we should be seeing off Wicklow this weekend.
Exactly. So well put in terms of all them Taoiseach Cup games, and we will obviously discuss the Taoiseach Cup once we have more time in the podcast, but a lot of games this weekend, obviously. I'll go to you on this one, Seamus, just for a comment on this. The under-20 semi-final, Tyrone against Kerry, this is on in Portlaoise this weekend, live on TG Car, the semi-final. The other semi-final is actually next Friday week between Mayo and Louth, so we'll discuss in next week's podcast there. But this game, Tyrone and Kerry, repeated the under-20 final last year. A lot of Tyrone players that go with McElhone, Conor O'Neill, they're all ready in the Tyrone team this year after last year's exploits. Kerry won the Munster Championship with their ease, to be honest, but I don't think Cork really put up a test to them. You would imagine Tyrone are favourites, but you'd have to imagine as well Tyrone have to perform a lot better than what they did in the Ulster final against Donegal to beat a good side managed by Tomás O'Shea.
Yeah, no, Tyrone definitely, for me, to stand out in terms of the players that they have at their disposal. Not even just but McCullough there at full forward. Obviously, don't know if he's related to Colin McCullough, but that would make me feel very old if he is. And then the jewel in the crown, obviously, is Owen McElhone, like an absolutely fabulous footballer who's good enough to start for Tyrone seniors right now, but he's still in with the under-20s and he's absolutely tearing it up for them. And they were the best team in the Ulster Championship. Yes, it was an absolute arm wrestle against Donegal in that final. Donegal have had some superb performances and superb players in there, the likes of Keane McMenamin, absolutely shining for them throughout the championship. That game was just an arm wrestle start to finish, and Tyrone proved a lot in winning that game. Kerry didn't prove a lot in the Cork game, you're rightly so saying. Cork didn't have a lot for them. Like in the early stages, it looked like it might be a tough game, but then Kerry, once they managed to cut them open, especially Tomas Kennedy at full forward, looks like very David Clifford-esque, but right-footed. Like he's big, tall, gangly, and it kicks in a very unique style and always skies the ball, but very, very accurate. And he got 1 point in the second half, which was just absolutely gorgeous, the way he just curled it in. He looks the real deal. Kerry are a solid side under Tomás O'Shea, but I don't think they're quite as good as Tyrone. And I think Tyrone will win this game. At the other semi-final, Louth and Mayo are playing next Friday. I don't know why the games are scheduled like that. Not why they're not on the same weekend. I don't know what the issue is. But I've been really, really impressed by Louth. Mayo look the real deal, though. Like all of their games, they have absolutely decimated teams over in Connacht. They put a huge score on Sligo. Like a Sligo team that have been very successful in under 20, as we know, over the last few years. Mayo have looked just a league apart over there. I fancy Mayo to come through the other semi-final, and then we'll preview that final when it comes. I'd probably say Tyrone, but wouldn't be 100% confident. I think if anyone stops them, it's Mayo.
Interesting. Me and Liam were on this podcast last week, and we both said Mayo win the All-Ireland, so it's nice to see something different there. Tyrone to win it. But we're probably predicting Tyrone and Mayo to reach the final, but it should be a very interesting under 20, no doubt about that. We'll move on to the LGFA, and there's 2 games here, which would skip past, obviously, Galway against Mayo in the Connacht LGFA game on Sunday at 1 p.m. It is a dead rubber. Both sides are in the Connacht final against each other. Why is this game even taking place? I don't know. And Kerry against Tipperary on Sunday at 2 p.m. in the Munster LGFA Championship. This is a dead rubber because Kerry have already progressed in the Munster final. Tipperary can progress in the Munster final. So I think we can safely go through these games and think Galway and Kerry to win them games. Unless there's any objection, great, let's go. On to the next game. Waterford against Cork in the Munster LGFA. This is an essential semi-final. I'll go to you on this, Liam. This is a huge game in Dungarvan because the winners of this goes to the Munster final to play against Kerry. It's a tough one to call. Waterford were very, very competitive at Division 1. Cork are gaining a bit of momentum under Joe Carroll, in fairness, coming from Division 2 and putting in some good performances. Historically, you probably would say Cork. They beat Waterford in the All-Ireland quarter-final last year. But this Waterford team at home as well, they've provided something different. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go against history. Sorry, Matthew. I actually think Waterford will win this game. I saw how close they got to Kerry in the last game, and I saw Waterford on a couple of occasions last year, covering them for Scorpio whenever they were on, and I was very, very impressed with them. And they have a lot of terrific players in their team. I think Kellyanne Hogan is one of the best players in the country. I think Laura McGregor is. I think she's actually underrated, to be honest with you. I don't think she gets enough appreciation at times, to be honest with you. Chloe Fennell as well, I'm a big fan of as well. So, and especially with Cork said last day, they kept a clean sheet against Tipperary, which was good from their perspective as well. And they did improve on what was essentially, I know they're going up against a very good Kerry side, but it was a shambles of a first half performance that they did have the opening day. So it was good for them to get a good recovery against Tipperary the second day and to score a couple of goals as well. But I said it for the last couple of weeks. I think it's going to be a Waterford Kerry Munster final. I think they're the two best sides, but I think Kerry are the best side in Ireland, essentially, aside from maybe your Armagh as well, who again they dismantled in the league final. But I think Waterford are the second best side in Munster, and I having home advantage as well. I know Cork did take care of them last year, but I think Waterford this year will turn it around. I think they'll just about get over the line against Cork, and especially when you factor in as well, Waterford do have a better attack than Tipperary, and I think they'll be able to penetrate it a bit more than what Tipperary did against Cork.
I actually agree with you. I think Waterford will win the game as well. Not because Cork are going bad or anything like that. I think it's an early project kind of for Joe Carroll. I think this Waterford team under Tomas McIntyre, like he was actually part of the Cork backroom team over the last few years, so he'd know Cork inside out. So yeah, I'm going to go for Waterford to win that game. Moving on to the Leinster football or LGFA final, I'll move on to you for this, Seamus. This is a double header, obviously, with the Louth and Meath men's final. Dublin against Meath, live on the TG Carry YouTube channel in Croke Park on Sunday at 2 p.m. Interesting enough game. Dublin struggled in the league, but they put Meath and Kildare away with relative ease, I would say, in the Leinster group stage so far. So what do you expect out of this game?
I hope it's going to be the competitive game that we saw at the start of the decade in the 2021, 2022. If you actually look over the last couple of years, the games between Dublin and Meath have not been competitive in Leinster. Dublin have pretty much swept Meath out of the gate every single time, especially in last year's Leinster final. Dublin hit 3 goals very quickly and the game was dead and buried. And that was really, really disappointing because you were looking at this thinking, right, here's a Meath side that did back-to-back All-Irelands in 21, 22. But the reality is they're missing so many players from that team. Sean Ennis isn't there. Niamh O'Sullivan isn't there. Orla Lally isn't there. Aveen Cleary isn't there. Like, you can't keep losing players of this calibre and stay at the level that they were at. They still have Vicky Wall in there. She'll be playing this game. They still have Emma Duggan in there. She'll be playing this game. Everything good that Meath do goes through those players, whereas I think Dublin have a lot more threats. Dublin have a lot more players that can do damage up front. Obviously, you've got the standouts, the Carla Rose, the Hannah Tyrrells, but on top of that, so many other players have been breaking through this season, like Annabelle Timothy. Ailish O'Dowd has returned at midfield. She's been absolutely imperious. Sinead Goldrick has been really showing her versatility. She's been playing in the half-forward line, playing in the half-back line, just proving what an outstanding athlete she is. Dublin just look a little bit better than Meath this year, I would say, in the league. I would expect them to win this game. I'd expect us to win this game. We've got new management in there. No more McBohan, Paul Casey and Murray are in there, Derek Murray. And yeah, so it's definitely a new era for us too. But I think we're a bit further ahead than Meath. And as emphasised by the league game in Parnell Park, which was on TG Caher, we expected a competitive battle. It wasn't. Dublin got 2 goals in the first half from Carla Rowe and from Queeve O'Connor, and 2 goals inside a minute, and the game was wrapped up. So
Yeah,
I do think that Dublin will probably win easier than you would think, but I hope I'm proven wrong.
Yeah, I'd probably go for a Dublin win in that game as well. Moving on to the last LGFA provincial final weekend, Armagh against Donegal in Clonus on Saturday at 3 p.m. live on the TGR YouTube channel. And again, a double header. It's great to see, obviously, with these, and it is a double header, obviously, with the men's Ulster final this game. These two sides, Liam, were in the Ulster LGFA final by default because they're the two senior sides. But you would imagine Donegal played their trade in Division 2 this year. Armagh played in the Division 1 final. I know they got a bit of a hocking off Kerry in the Division 1 final. I think number one, you'd be expecting at this stage potentially Amy Macken to come back into the team, and number two, you would expect Armagh to be massive favourites for this.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think Armagh are probably the closest challengers to Kerry this year in the All Ireland in the ladies football championship. And yeah, I think it's going to be a successful day for Armagh from both the ladies and the men's perspectives. Obviously, if anyone from Donegal is listening, I do apologise. I think it's going to be a very long day for them, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, I think it's as well. Given how they did lose that final against Kerry, they'll want to put that behind them fairly quickly and put some bit of silverware in front of them as well. I'd expect them to take care of business against Donegal this weekend. Like you said, they were playing in a higher division this year. They were playing against a better opposition, and they were winning big games as well. So just having that little bit of big game experience will come in handy for them as well. So yeah, I expect Armagh to do the double this weekend.
Yeah, and I think we all do as well. Armagh to win the Ulster LGFA title once again this weekend. Moving on to the hurling, and it's a long time coming, obviously, but this game is massive in terms of implications. Clare against Tipperary in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, live from Zimmer, Boymet, Parkes Oak. I'm perfecting this. I'm perfecting
Say that again.
Say it again. Go on.
Time.
Let's go. Zimmer, Boymet, Parkes Oak.
Well done.
Who's responsible for that? Jesus Christ.
Seriously, yeah. That could go for another podcast.
But
Anyway.
lads, I believe you me, we are blessed in the GA that we don't have more of that. Like,
yeah,
I'm a massive fan of basketball, but it's all over the place in basketball. Do you know the UCC Demons have nothing to do with UCC? They're just sponsored by UCC. They're not. But they're called the UCC Demons. And then one team that made it to the final was called, right? They made it to the women's final. St. Paul's, but they're sponsored by Utility Trust. So their name was Utility Trust St. Paul's. I'm like, that sounds bad. That just sounds so, like, I just don't like that at all. So thank God we don't have, like, Zimmerman Clare versus Finch's Tipperary or something, like, you know what I mean?
Meath Monsters versus the Loud Leaders or something.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
The Armagh Astronomers versus the Deadly Donegal people.
Actually,
Stay City Dublin versus Super Valley Cork.
Actually, you reckon if Cork were to do what they call themselves, Cork Capital?
Oh, they definitely would, man.
Over the top Offaly is another one. But anyway, we'll move swift.
What would I call us? The despised Dubs.
Oh Christ!
Meek Mayo.
What has this turned into?
Oh God! This is what happens when the pod goes over an hour and 5 minutes.
No, this is what happens when the three of us go to a podcast.
That's what happens. Just get delirious, like just go past the level.
Calm. Right,
Okay.
The Munster Senior Hurling Championship. Clare against Tipperary in Ennis on Saturday at 6 p.m. live on GA+. Both sides are on 1 point. Seamus, I'll go to you on this one. Jokes aside, look at the names of the crowds and everything like that. This is a massive game for both teams.
Yeah, massive game for both teams. Oh, good. I was praying he didn't say the name of the stadium. I would have absolutely died laughing if he said it one more time. Oh my God. Right. Okay. I'm here. Right. Yeah. No, this one's huge. Both teams. Like when you look at it, it's absolutely crazy that that we're here already. Like the Clare have had such a flat start to the campaign, but also still shown what they're capable of. Like in that first half against Cork, you were scratching your head wondering how they were so flat, given that the league they had been so poor, and you'd imagine that Lohan would have been absolutely laying down the marker that, lads, this does not happen. This does not make it into the championship. We do not, fall flat in front of our home crowd. And the way that they roared back into the contest in the second half showed exactly what they're capable of, reminded us exactly what they're capable of. So to see then how flat they were against Waterford was the case that, like, I couldn't understand what happened in the intermediate period, why Waterford were able to catch them on the hop the way that they did. As for Tip put in an outstanding display against Limerick. Could have got the win in that one, but probably a draw was the fair result. And then in the Cork game, look, it was over before it ever began with the red card for Darren McCarthy. I still think that Cork would have beaten them. Come at me in the comments if you want. I still think the Cork would have beaten them, but the red card for Darren McCarthy basically gave them no chance. You lose one of your best forwards before the games even began, and that gave all the power, all the dominance of the game over to Cork. And now Tip and Clare both have their backs firmly against the wall. And over the last 2 or 3 years, the team that's shown me that they have the capability to come out swinging more when their back is against the wall is Clare. Clare have shown me that they can come out swinging when their lives are on the line in the championship better than Tip over the last 3 years. And I think, especially given home advantage, given it's in a Wubbabub Park in Ennis, I'm going to go for Clare.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game, Liam, when you think about it. The question I'll ask you, who's under more pressure in this game, do you think?
Oh, Clare. 1,000%. They won the All-Ireland last year. And any team that wins the All-Ireland, or you win your respective county championship or whatever, they're going to be the ones that are looked at the most. Like, remember Leo O'Connor, the Offaly 20 manager, said recently, the championship starts when the All-Ireland champions play, because everyone in the country has their eyes on them. Like, I can imagine the whole country watching, well, every intercounty football manager across the country would have been watching Antrim Armagh to see what Armagh were like this year. And I can imagine every person in the country, from a hurling perspective, was watching Clare and Cork, not just for the significance of the game, obviously, but just to see what are Clare like this year. Okay, they played in the league, but as I say, the league is the league, championship's championship. So I think Clare are probably under the most pressure this weekend. Although saying that, Liam Cahill, you're thinking, is this another year of so-called, I don't like saying it, but the Liam Cahill syndrome, where they perform well in the league and then the championship comes around and it all sort of falls apart. You just hope from their sake that this isn't another year where that does come into fruition. You hope that they do perform more like they did against Limerick than what they did against Cork. I agree with Seamus. If Darren McCarthy never got sent off, I still think Cork win that game comfortably. I was at the league final and Tip competed well for the first 20 minutes, but just seeing the movement from Cork and the way that they just destroyed them in the full back line, the way Alan Connolly, Brian Hayes and Patrick Horgan worked in the full forward line and took them apart piece by piece. I just was never convinced that Tipperary were going to turn that around in a short space of time, especially going back to the same venue again. But yeah, for me, travelling down to Ennis is going to be difficult, especially for Tipperary, and they'll have to be aware of this, considering the comeback Clare did produce against Cork a couple of weeks ago. They'll have to be on top of their game and produce, like I said, more of what they did against Limerick than they did against Cork. Against Limerick, like, they attacked from the front. They went toe-to-toe. They created goal chances. They obviously took their goal chances through John McGrath as well. He looked like the John McGrath that we were promised years ago in respect of what we've kind of seen of him over the last couple of years as well, unfortunately, from his perspective. But yeah, the game was over after 10 minutes against Cork. You hope they don't kind of quiver under pressure, especially away from home like that again, to be honest with you. Anytime Cork went forward, they looked like they could bury a goal chance the last day. Tip are going to have to be a lot more stern at the back this time around. Yeah, and like I said, look, Clare the last day against Waterford, we do have to, I know it was a very poor performance from them, and you look at the likes of Aidan McCarthy, the freeze he was taking the last day was very, very poor. And even when they switched over to David Brady, I think he missed the first one or two as well. So they're going to have to get that right, especially at this level. But Clare were also, like, they are still missing Shane O'Donnell. They were missing Tony Kelly. I think Conor Cleary out as well. So they were missing a lot of big players. And having said that, I was impressed with Shane Meath for large periods the last day. I thought he actually played very well as a replacement the last day. They didn't get enough out of Aaron Shanahan like they did against Cork, the impact that he made. So, yeah, it's going to be a very tight game. I did say at the start of the year that Clare would finish fourth, and that Tipperary would take their spot. I've probably changed my mind now to Waterford in that perspective, because I actually think Waterford will go down to Tipperary and beat them in Thurles, to be honest with you, despite the performance against Limerick last weekend. But I just think that was more down to Limerick being back to their best and Waterford being, anyway inferior to them, to be honest with you, or showing any signs of they played well the first day, they're not going to play well the second day. It's a tough one to call, isn't it? Jesus. I could just spin the wheel, but that could take a while.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, flip a coin. If I was to call, do you know what? I was listening to Pat Ryan earlier on the Our Game podcast with Michael Verney, and he said he hopes it's a draw so the drama continues, but he's obviously going to say that as a Limerick man. But if I was to call it, if Tony Kelly is back, then that will give Clare a massive, massive boost. And whoever comes in for Darren McCarthy this weekend, I don't know whether Tip released their team or not, I haven't seen, but whoever comes in for Darren McCarthy this weekend has a big, big job on his hands as well.
To be fair, Liam, Jason Ford was very good at the freeze the other day against Cork.
Well, he was, and Jason Ford has been for the last 10, 15 years, but just even bringing in someone like Darren McCarthy was very solid against Limerick from play on the opening day as well. Probably didn't do enough in the league final, but you did see him against Cork in the league as well. He did score 5 points from play. He did well against Limerick in the league as well from play. Like, he's starting to gain a lot more from play as games have gone on. Did well against Kilkenny as well. So just that impact, I feel, and that movement that he does bring as well is a massive miss for them. If I was to call it now, do you know what? I'm going to agree with Pat Ryan. I'm going to go for a draw. Because Tipperary have also had a decent enough record down in Clare over the past couple of years. They scored 5 a couple of years ago. The year they won the All-Ireland last, they scored 3-21, I believe. So I'm going to go for a draw.
We're going to go for the three-piece in predictions. I'm going to go for Tip to win this game.
I'm going Clare.
So,
yeah,
three different predictions.
Do you think Cahill is gone if Tip lose?
Oh, yeah, I think he is.
I don't think he can afford to go out in Munster again.
Mm.
And especially when they've got like class managers like Brendan Cummins and all, around the place.
James Woodlock,
yeah. I think he could be goosed if they...
Jamie Callan and Brendan Maher doing work with Offaly as well. They could potentially look at that too.
So. Yeah, it kind of reminds me a lot of, like, do you remember when Shefflin was managing Galway and Eddie Brennan was managing Laois and Michael Fennelly was managing Offaly, and they were all just kind of positioning themselves, waiting for Cody to go, and then Derek Ling ended up getting it, and everyone was like, "What?"
Yeah.
So probably is going to be a rogue challenger.
Definitely is. Brian's having a comment in here. Liam Cahill will likely leave at the end of the championship. I would think regardless, really. Would you agree with that? Or, like, if Tip reached the All-Ireland semi-final, for instance?
No, I think he stays if they get out of Munster.
Yeah. I think they'll probably see that as he's broken that sort of curse. But I mean, I'm sitting here and I think they'll lose to Waterford and I think they'll draw this weekend. So that will most likely essentially knock them out of Munster. I think if he does lose if he doesn't get out of Munster I think he's probably taking them as far as he can. I actually probably would have said Declan Laughlin as well. He's part of the management team of Tipperary as well. But ironically, he's the new manager of Kilkenny, so we'll have him for the new season. So I reckon he might not want to take on that job if he's taking on this job. But at the same time, you never know. There's a lot of good coaches in Tipperary. So, like you said, it could be...
Padraig Maher's another good one, actually.
Yeah, Padraig Maher too. So... Yeah, it could be a rogue choice in a couple of months.
But it should be a very interesting game. But one more, I think we've all made our predictions on this, but one more question I'll throw to you, this Seamus. I know Darren McCarthy got sent off against Cork, and the game was over before it started, as he said there. But Tip had 43 shots. They had more turnovers than Cork. They did 58% retention rate on their puckouts. With 14 men, is that a positive for Tip to take into this game?
Those stats certainly are. And like the fact that they still wrapped up a fairly decent tally, Jason Ford's accuracy on the freeze and everything like that. Like they were playing against the Cork team that is superb, probably the best right now. Like I know that a lot of people get triggered by that, so I'll go and hide in the dungeon after saying that now. But basically, I think Cork definitely are one of the front runners for the All Ireland, and Tip were down a man before it even began against them. And for any team, that's going to be a massive shot in the leg. Like there's gonna, you got shot in the leg before the game even began. So for Tip, they were always on the back foot in that one, and I don't think anybody doubted that Cork were going to win. So for Tip, you take the positives from it. You don't look at the result. You look at the performance in a game like that. And the reality is they've shown enough to tell me that they can go away to Ennis and win this game. And they can still save themselves. I just don't think they will. I think if we look at the history for Tip, going into this game, they are now kind of put into a position where they're going to have to rely on the older guard a little bit more than they have done in previous games. That older guard has not been good enough to get them out of the Munster Championship in the last 2 years. I don't see much reason to tell me that that's going to be different this year. And I don't want to come across like I'm disrespecting those guys. Some of those guys are some of the greats of hurling, like the Noel McGraths and the John McGraths and everything like that. But I just feel like this is where it comes to an end for them.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, obviously, but we've got 3 different predictions there. I'm saying a Tip win, James saying Clare, and Liam's on the fence with a draw, but we'll have to see what happens this weekend in terms of the Munster Championship. The Leinster Championship's also kicking off again this weekend. Galway against Wexford in Pearse Stadium at 3:15 live on RT2 on Saturday, and this game is essentially, Liam, I would say, a decider on who gets into the top 3. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, probably would agree with that. Yeah, and look, both sides will have to perform in this game as well to their absolute best in order to try and get into the top 3 in Leinster. You can realistically count us and Antrim out of that now, anyways. Kind of after the last couple of results, but yeah, look, I think it's a huge game for both counties. There's no point saying otherwise. Galway will need to perform this game similar enough to how they did against Offaly, but bearing in mind Wexford will pose a different threat to Offaly as well. I mean, first of all, for one thing, Lee Chin is monstrous in the air, and Gavin Lee and Mannion will be fully tested in the half back. TJ Brennan as well, they'll be fully tested in the half back line under a high ball. I mean, the way in which Chin connects with the full forward line, especially O'Connor. And I think we saw the big example of that in the game against Dublin, when we saw the opening goal, Burke out this weekend as well, which is a massive, massive loss for Galway. Obviously, there's debate over whether the red card was harsh or not against us. But nonetheless, he is gone this weekend. And if Wexford can get an opportunity to run through that full back line like they did against Dublin, then I think they could be a massive, massive trouble. I think this could be a very high scoring game, to be honest with you. Wexford have scored 224 against Antrim, 419 against Dublin. And look, obviously Galway did score 225 the last day. Kim Malloy was exceptional corner forward. Conor Whelan just did his stuff. Cathal Mannion did get some good scores. And TJ Brendan had a massive scoring threat from wing back. He scored 3 points and had a lot of great movement off the ball to get himself into space and away from basically most of the Offaly kind of half back line, midfield and half forward line in order to create space for himself. But Galway do have to be cautious. I saw it in person there a few weeks ago that Offaly the last day did miss some gilt edge chances and really should have gotten more goal chances. They should have scored more than what they did. Like they scored 114, but they missed a load of chances on the day, which if you give some of those goal chances to Wexford that Offaly had, say, then Galway could be in big, big trouble. They'll have to be on their guard at the back and use the space that could be afforded them, regardless of how big or how little. Obviously, look, O'Connor and Chin will be there to help, but they'll need the Cathal Dunbars, they'll need the Keane Burns, the Conor Hearns, all to step up massively, because you can't just rely on 2 guys for too long. Not only in order to win a Leinster title, but just even to get to a decider. You can't just rely on those 2 for the whole season. You need every single man pulling their weight in the forward line. You might even need some of your wing backs to pull off scores. You might need Richie Lawler to be pulling off scores as well. So, yeah, no, it's a huge, huge game for both sides. I know I came back to bite me in the arse saying that we'd beat Galway. I think that was my heart talking more than my head, to be honest with you. And rightfully got called out by some people for that. But I still don't rate Galway maybe as highly as other people do. That's probably a bit harsh, but I still think there's a lot of frailties in their game at times. And I think if Wexford can exploit that, I think Wexford can get a win here. They were like, bear in mind, there was only 2 points in it in the league, and Wexford had a dreadful league campaign. So, obviously, I know people talk about Galway, but Wexford were poor in the league, especially up until that point, and especially at home as well. We saw what they did to them last year down at Wexford Park, how they destroyed them essentially, and that was probably more so than the game against Dublin. That was probably the game that got Sheffield sacked in the end, to be honest with you, that performance down in Wexford Park. So I think for me, it's a huge weekend for Micheál Donoghue. It's a huge weekend for Keith Rossiter. And I actually think Wexford might actually escape Pearse Stadium this weekend with a victory. The record down there recently has not been great. I'm fully aware of that. But sometimes records are there to be broken. And I think if Wexford can get more out of the likes of Byrne, he's got a couple of goals this year, which is good. If they can get more out of Cathal Dunbar, if they can win the midfield battle, and if they can press up on Galway, maybe the way that Offaly didn't do the last day, but the way that Kilkenny did the opening day, then I think Wexford will actually win this game. Again, nothing against Galway. Love Galway. I love Galway hurling. Was delighted to see them win the All-Ireland in 2017. But I just don't rate them as highly as what they used to be. And I still think they'll be the team that will finish outside the top three in Leinster.
You know what? I actually agree. I think Wexford will come out of Pearse Stadium with a win as well. I watched the highlights of Wexford Dublin because I think it was on at the same time as Armagh Tyrone that day. But I was impressed with what I seen from Wexford. Lee Chin was definitely on form. Rory O'Connor has the potential to hit good heights. Corey Dunbar is a very good youngster as well. And Keith Rossiter, he seems to be kind of proving everyone wrong in terms of Wexford's trajectory. Whereas you look at Galway, the jury's kind of still out. If they go and get a win this weekend, fair play. But I feel like Wexford are probably better at the moment in terms of form than Galway. Will you make it a 3 in a row with prediction there, Seamus?
No, I don't know, lads. I feel like
you missed your chance.
I feel like we're moving a bit too fast to Wexford. Just what have we seen so far that screams that this is different to any other season?
Well, they got cheated by Dublin, didn't they?
Exactly. Well, oh, bad internet connection. I didn't hear that, man.
Oh no.
No, but basically, yeah, that goal shouldn't have stood. The one that Dublin got from the penalty, that should not have stood. But a razor tight game with Dublin, which would have ended in a draw, or could very easily have ended in a draw, and Dublin get a narrow win. That happens pretty much every year. Leachin carries them to a victory against Antrim. That happens pretty much every year. They got relegated in the league. Galway didn't. And Galway beat Offaly far more convincingly than any of us thought that they would.
The thing is, Wexford had a lot of injuries, though, didn't they, Seamus?
In the league.
Yeah.
They did. But again, I wouldn't... We're not giving Clare that same grace.
I bring them to finish fourth, so
I still feel like Wexford are very repetitive every year, and I feel like they only seem to save the Hail Marys for whenever they play Kilkenny. I still would back them to actually beat Kilkenny, but I don't back them in this one.
And you make a good point. I'm not even saying I'm rating Wexford at all, to be honest with you. Like at the end of the day, they conceded. What was it? They conceded against Dublin 3-26, was it, or something like that? And after 10, 15 minutes, I think he had 11 points on the board or 12 points on the board, and I think
we don't have as good a forward line as Galway do. We don't.
I think to be fair, Seamus, I think you might do this year.
I think you do this year. I'll be honest.
We've no one as good as Conor Whelan.
Conor Whelan's only scored 2 or 3 points so far in 2 games.
Conor Whelan is special, though. He was the architect.
He is, but he's not having his best form at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of an aura thing that I'm kind of used to seeing Galway compete at the top tier. By the way, lads, I actually fancy us to beat them.
So do I.
I do.
They have to come to Parnell Park. They have a really bad record against Dublin in Dublin. I don't think they've beaten us in Dublin in the round robin.
They lost in 2019. They drew in 23. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, there's not been any other time because of COVID.
And we beat them last year away from home. We have a fairly decent record against them. They just seem to be able to take it to a higher level outside of the games against us. I don't know. I'm going to shade it to Galway with the home advantage. We wrote them off against Offaly. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I'm going to go Galway.
Okay, interesting predictions there. We shall see what happens in Pearse Stadium this weekend. Moving on to the other two games, obviously Antrim against Dublin on Saturday, 4 p.m. That's live at GA Plus for Cork and Park. Obviously, Davy will be hoping to get a win as Antrim boss his first win as Antrim boss in the championship. And Kilkenny against Offaly in Nolan Park on Saturday at 6 p.m. This game is not shown anywhere, but I think, Liam, correct me if I'm wrong, you are going to this game. So, some interesting games there, but Liam, even with your Offaly colours on, you'd have to expect Kilkenny to win this game. Antrim and Dublin could be a tricky one for Dublin going up to Cork and Park Belfast, but you'd expect Dublin to win the game.
Well, you say off the colours. Ironically, I'm wearing a Kilkenny jersey. So
yeah, you need to put a hoodie on now. You need to get a hoodie on right now.
You're a traitor.
I probably picked the wrong time to. I didn't think straight. I just threw this on this morning and I didn't think. Yeah, well, look, at least my housemate will be happy with me. I'm going to it. But look, being realistic, I mean, I would love to be sitting here Sunday night or next week or the week after, still smiling after a famous victory. If we could do what Westmeath did against Wexford a couple of years ago, just pull off the absolute almighty comeback or shock, get an Istanbul moment or something like that. But for being realistic, look, Kilkenny are the best side in Leinster. They're the most realistic side in Leinster to take down the likes of a Cork or a Limerick or even a Clare in Munster or even a Waterford at this point, to be honest with you. And I mean, look, added to the fact as well that we've lost Adam Screeney for a couple of months as well. He fractured his ankle on Monday during the defeat to Dublin in the Under-20 Championship. And yeah, I just feel like at the moment, a lot of our momentum is probably building towards the game against Antrim on the 25th of May. Arguably, probably the Wexford game as well. We could see that going down. I'd probably be down at Wexford Park as well for that game. Probably could look at that game as well and see maybe it's the most realistic other game that we could get something out of. But I just think going up against Kilkenny this weekend, regardless if they have TJ Reid or not, you've Owen Cody in there, you've Mossy Keown, you've Keane Kenny. I mean, Hugh Lawler is one of the best, if arguably not the best fullback in the country. I know Antrim gave them a bit of a scare in the first half of last day, but realistically, Kilkenny still won the game out by 18 points. I think we can give it a good rattle. We certainly gave it a good rattle last year. I was down at the game in the Nolan Park in the league last year. We were leading at half time, but I just think Kilkenny are way too strong for a team like us at the moment. I think, yeah, it's going to be very difficult for us to try and get anything from this game. I would love it, but I just don't see it, to be honest with you. In terms of Antrim Dublin, look, again, I know this game's in Cork and Park, and they gave Kilkenny a real try, like I said, but for me, I've been very impressed with Dublin. I am a big fan of the work going on by Niall O'Callaghan as manager. He's got a great squad. They play some really, really nice hurling as we speak. Their energy, their press, working the ball out from the back in kind of the typical Dublin ways as well. And they take their chances too. Like, they finished strong against us, and even with Wexford, they were 3 points down too at one stage. They produced a great comeback as well to get the victory. Almost as if there's a new belief inside Dublin camp this year that even though they are down, they still come back and rescue games, and I think they'll have enough to see off Antrim this weekend. You've Heatherton, who's in great form, had a super game. The last day scored 2-3. Sean Curry has stepped up big time. They won the last day as well. Remember, this is why I think they have a better attack than, say, the likes of Galway. They didn't have the Donald Burst. They didn't have Danny Sutcliffe the last day. You have someone like Adrian Murphy on the bench, who I still think could be a starter for Dublin, and they won without them. And they were very, very impressive in the attack as well. I just think if you were to take a Conor Whelan out of the Galway team, if you were to take a Colin Mannion or maybe another equivalent, perhaps even Keane Malloy after he played the last day, or Tiernan Killeen maybe if he doesn't drop back to midfield, do Galway win those types of games as well as Dublin did, or do they perform as well as Dublin did? I'm not too sure at the moment, but yeah, it came to fruition the last day in the grand scheme of things. I think they'll show it up again here, and I think they will have. I think they'll have enough for Antrim. I don't see Davy getting a win over Dublin. I don't see him getting a win over Galway, and I think I think for Antrim, they'll probably just be seeing the Offaly game as well as the real crunch time.
Unless Seamus disagrees, I think we'll move on from those games. Dublin and Kilkenny took win those games. We'll move on to the Joe McDonagh Cup. We're into the final hurdle, lads. So, Laois against Kerry in Port live on Clubber at 4 p.m. on Sunday. We've Westmeath against Down in TG Cusack Park in Mullingar on Saturday at 2:30. That's live on Clubber as well. And a third game live on Clubber is Carlow against Kildare in Netwatch Cullen Park on Saturday at 2 p.m. So the situation at the Joe McDonagh is Laois and Carlow are ahead 2 wins from 2, 4 points on the board each. Kildare and Kerry both on 2 points, and Westmeath and Down both on 0. That Westmeath and Down game, Seamus, actually is a crucial game. Both sides on 0 points. Whoever loses that is in real danger of going down to the Christie Ring. You would expect Laois and Carlow to win the other 2 games.
Yeah, no, Laois and Carlow have definitely made statements in the way that they've won their first 2 games. That they put huge beatings, like especially Carlow against Down. Carlow put up a monumental scoreline in that one. Really, really sent out a statement for the whole competition. Down have a really good chance of beating Westmeath though, and it will be crucial for them to do that to get over the line. This is a game that's winnable. They need to get over the line. Carlow were the obvious pick when they came down from the Liam McCarthy last year. They were the obvious pick to get back into the final at the very least, because they'd proven just how good they were, drawing with Kilkenny, pushing Dublin to the absolute brink. They'd proved that they were good enough to mix it up there with the Leinster Championship against those teams. And they were very, very unlucky to get relegated. So themselves and then Laois, who fell short in the Joe McDonagh final last year in a brilliant game against Offaly, they were the 2 that were the obvious front runners, and they've really, really made statements in their first 2 wins. Kildare have done great getting 2 wins, getting their first win ever in the Joe McDonagh as well, which is a massive achievement for them. And Down, if they can get over the line against Westmeath, it will be a monumental victory for them to build off their success in Division 2A when they won that final. So, a lot on the line this weekend. I actually am going to tip Down to get over the line against Westmeath. I'm going to tip then Laois and Carlow to get wins in their respective games as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with those predictions as well. In Westmeath, if they are to lose that game, that would be a really, really bad look on Saoirse Bulfin, obviously the new Westmeath manager, and they could very well go out to the Christie Ring, and that would be disastrous in terms of Westmeath point of view. Looking on at the Christie Ring Cup, and I'll go to Liam on this. So the Christie Ring Cup this weekend has games on Saturday with Donegal against London at 12:30. That's in Donegal. Tyrone against Derry at 1 p.m. and Wicklow against Meath at 2 p.m. in that weekend as well. And we are after 3 games. So this is actually the second last game of the Christie Ring Cup. Funny enough, Wicklow are actually top of the table with 5 points on the board. Then you have Meath and Derry both on 4 points, London on 3, Donegal on 2, and Tyrone on 0. That Wicklow and Meath game, Liam, look at the table and look at the fixture there. Wicklow have home advantage against Meath as well. Could they manage to keep their unbeaten record going in this Christie Ring Cup?
Well, considering what London did to me, you absolutely could back them for another famous week. And in the manner that London beat Meath as well, I mean, that was a huge shock to me. Whatever about London winning, but score 5-18 as well, away from home as well, was even more impressive as well. So there's absolutely no reason why Wicklow should fear Meath in that perspective as well, considering the start that they have made. So, I think Meath are still probably arguably the strongest side in the Christie Ring, along with probably Derry, I would say. But like I said, you would, after the beating that they took against London, you absolutely would not be. I wouldn't be shocked anyways if Wicklow were to pull off a win like that this weekend. Well, maybe not a win to that extent, but just to pull off a result of some kind this weekend, it'd be absolutely huge for them. I think for Port Tyrone, I think they're going to be in for another tough weekend against Derry. To be honest with you, like I said, Derry could easily, probably should be at this stage maybe a Joe McDonagh team. They haven't, I don't remember the last time Derry were in the Joe McDonagh, or have they ever been in the Joe McDonagh? I'm not quite too sure at the top of my head at the moment, but they'd certainly be aiming to get back to the final and try and get up there this time. I think, look, Donegal had their great win against Kerry in the league, but they've still not been, I think other than that, it's still not been the best of seasons for them. I actually think London will get a win over them this weekend. And it'd be great for them as well. It's only good for hurling to see teams like this getting wins in this championship as well. And yeah, it'll push London onto 5 points, which would be absolutely huge for them. So yeah, no, I think it's a very interesting weekend. But like I said, the Wicklow Meath game is probably the big standout game. I'm going to be safe, and I am going to say Meath, but I would, for Wicklow to get a win and to progress the way they have been over the last couple of years, it would be massive for them.
Yeah, it should be an interesting game. Obviously, I think Meath will probably beat Wicklow and Derry, and Lund should get over the line as well. And just for context, the Donegal London games in Letterkenny, the Tyrone and Derry game is on in Dungannon, and the Wicklow and Meath game is on in Antrim this weekend. Look at the Nicky Rocker Cup this weekend. There are some games in that as well. On Saturday, we have Armagh against Louth at 12 p.m. at the Boxing Athletic Grounds in Armagh on Saturday. You have Mayo against Sligo at 2 p.m. in Hastings at George McHale Park in Castlebar on Saturday. And then on Sunday in the Nicky Rocker Cup, you have one more game, and that is Roscommon against Fermanagh in Dr. Hyde Park in Roscommon at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Look at the table and look at the fixtures there, Seamus. Sligo and Mayo play against each other in Castlebar, and coincidentally, actually, Mayo and Sligo are the top two at the moment. Mayo have 6 points, Sligo at 5 points. Then you have Roscommon on 3 and 3rd place. So you would have to be safely saying there the winner of that game is all but home to Nicky Rocker final.
Certainly, and I do think that it will be Mayo. Like, Mayo have been the ones that have caught my eye from the beginning of this competition. They've had some massive wins. They're kind of consistently over the last few years, they've been in Nicky Rackard finals. They've been getting up to Christy Ring and that type of level, and I expect them to bounce back up straight away. And look, Sligo have had some big wins, but I just think Mayo have proven from the start that they're kind of on a one-way ticket out of this competition, and I think this win will be crucial in doing that.
Exactly. So, and if Mayo do win, that'll be a crucial win for them. And finally, on the long podcast that it is, the Laurie Mark Cup. So on Saturday, a fixtures Lancashire against Monaghan in Abbottstown at 1:30 on Saturday. You have Longford against Cavan in Glennon Brothers Pierce Park on Saturday as well at 2 p.m. And then the final game, which is on Sunday in the Laurie Mark Cup, it is Warwickshire against Leitrim in Birmingham at 2 p.m. on Sunday. So the table in this, Cavan are 6 points, Longford are on 5, and Cavan and Longford actually play against each other. So another top of the table dash there, Liam. Monaghan on 4 points, Leitrim on 3. You would have imagined that would be the top 4, and Warwickshire and Lancashire both on 0 at the moment. Cavan and Longford, I think the winner of that will be safely into Laurie Mar final and an appearance in Croke Park as well, because the Laurie Mar is quite interesting this year as well, because second place actually doesn't get into the final. Second place plays against New York, and the winner of that game goes to Croke Park then. So quite an interesting competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it creates an extra bit of jeopardy as well. You know, it allows, say, a team in second to not just be somewhat comfortable, maybe, that some people might have been complaining about. In particular, I noticed in the Joe McDonough competitions the last couple of years, people saying, should first place not go to the final, and then should you not have maybe second and third play each other in a so-called playoff, and meet each other for a chance to get a place in the final. Look, I said it from a while back. I think Cavan are the strongest side in the Laurie Maher this year, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. Obviously, they are going up against Longford, who've won 2 games themselves, but I think you look at even scoring difference like Cavan have. They've plus 52 after 3 games, which is really, really impressive from them. I think they are the strongest side in the Laurie Maher, and I really don't see them having any issues with any team, to be honest with you. I followed them a good bit last year, covering Scorpio, and again, they were the strongest. They were very strong last year, and I don't expect that to change this year, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's actually interesting. I actually didn't know that at all, that they were playing New York, and it's a great opportunity for New York as well, because you'd always just associate New York with playing football in Connacht or going into the Tailteann Cup. But yeah, I had no idea that this rule was brought in. That's actually an incredible rule, to be honest with you. It's something, I suppose it's a great chance for them to show off what they have coming through up there as well. And very, very interesting. Didn't know that now. That's a crazy stat, actually. Never realised that at all.
It is definitely, and it should be a very interesting competition, the Laurie Mar Cup, without a doubt. And yeah, it'll be interesting from now until the end of the season. So that is it.
Wait, try time it for 1:59:59, please. Try hit it on the button. Try hit a buzzer beater.
Missed the opportunity. 2 hours. Look. Thanks to Liam, thanks to Seamus for coming on to today's podcast. We'll see if we can get it to 2 hours exactly. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Ring the bell for any notifications on the channel as well. Don't forget to subscribe, obviously. For anybody that listens to the podcast on Spotify, thanks very much. Like the podcast on Spotify always as well. Thanks to Capture Athletics for sponsoring today's show once more. And until next week, which will have another long episode, I'd imagine, as well, with all the games going on. We'll see you then. Take care. Enjoy the games. And thank you to anybody that watched until the very end. Take care.